Hello everyone, we are making a pilgrimage down to Detroit and we are bringing my truck in to get fixed. It has 34,000 miles on it. The only thing wrong with it, or the only problem that I've had with this truck, besides having to get the rear axle replaced at 10,000 miles, the story that I got from Ford is they didn't clean the housing correctly before assembling it after machining. It's not a design flaw. In fact, when you look at the specifications and the design of the Sterling 11.6, it's a juggernaut. It's a beast. And I really like my rear axle. I haven't had any trouble since that happened. But the ongoing issue that I've had trouble with is my hub lockouts eventually not vacuum sealing. They work perfectly fine in manual, which is fine by me. I threatened to convert to manual lockouts on this truck, but most of my viewers said they want to see Ford take care of the shit, as I said. And this is exactly what we're going to do. I'm scheduled with an awesome dealership, one that we have a long relationship with the service department with. I really trust them. I really like them. Service manager is an awesome guy. He knew my dad, so we have a good relationship with them. So, and they are the ones who properly diagnosed this truck, got the rear axle replaced, and the care, or the standard of care, if you want, that my truck got became the standard of care for M235 and Sterling 11.6 issues going forward. Mine failed fairly quickly because I put a lot of miles on my 23 very quickly. So the standard that everyone else got across the country was kind of based on my truck, which is kind of cool. That's what I was told by them, who had two Ford engineers come in to take care of my axle problem. And they told me that, you know, my truck set the standard that you guys all got to deal with if you had trouble with your front or rear axles on your 2023 Plus Ford Super Duty. So that's kind of cool. I mean, it was about 3 weeks not having my truck. I'm glad it all got fixed. I've had a very good experience with my truck. I love my truck. I'm so sad to be currently bringing it down to the dealer because it means I'm not going to have it for a while. In order to properly diagnose things and to document with Ford, and also because of my relationship with these guys, they know that I'm not a dickhead. They're going to go through and make sure that everything is done exactly correct, and if it needs to become a new standard, they're going to take the time to call in the engineers, do it right, because they know I'm not going to throw a total fit about it taking longer. They trust me to not be a jerk, and I trust them to do it right, and at the end of the day, we get a better product. Overall, this is a wonderful truck. The M235, I'm going to go and say it again 1,000 times. Ford, please just listen to me. This was a huge mistake. We're going to caveat really quickly. My truck is unbelievable fuel economy. Now, 45 miles is not long enough to say the truck gets 15.2 all the time. It's not true. We're doing 72 right now and haven't lost any fuel economy. Now, I will say, from city driving, I will say that different loads of fuel, I do notice a 0.5 to a mile a gallon shift depending on where I get fuel. This fuel came from actually a local gas station, which is hilarious, and it ended up being cheaper than Meyer, which my local Meyer fuel tends to be a pretty darn good. I get good fuel economy from whatever fuel source that they get it from. But my local gas station or my local, convenience store that has a gas station happen to have 4-cent cheaper fuel, and it happens to be getting excellent fuel economy. So win-win. There is a difference when you buy fuel at different places, and it just depends on the freshness of the fuel, the purity, that kind of thing. There is a difference. So if someone is getting fuel at the same gas station every single time and you're getting poor fuel economy, you should change gas stations. Even if it's the cheapest, if you do a little bit of math, you might find out that paying a few cents more and getting something that gets a half mile a gallon or a 0.8 better or something like that, it may actually statistically matter to you. So you should take a look at that. If you want to be that analytical, you may make enough money that you don't care. A lot of people, this is just, swipe credit card, put fuel in it. This is part of life. Maybe you're deducting it some way for taxes. It becomes a business expense, whatever. But I do try, and even though this thing is a business expense, even though I do try and, try to not worry too much about cents, because at the end of the day, life is more important than cents. I do keep pretty close track of stuff. So what I want to say is that 15.2 is pretty darn normal for this truck. This is a 373 gear, 7.3. It is an F350, so it's pretty tall. It's on slightly bigger tires than stock. They're 285 65 R20s, and they're slightly heavier tire than stock. These are Falcon AT4Ws that are heavy. They have a really good sidewall, really heavy-duty carcass. Overall, I absolutely love these tires. They have about 15,000 miles on them. Now 15 to 18 or something like that. I guess I haven't been keeping super close track on it. I always have to call Bell Tire and be like, hey, when did I put these tires on? And they could even be more than that. now. But whatever it is they are wearing, just absolutely beautifully. I adore these tires. They work very, very well in all conditions. So trying to give you a little bit of a rundown of my truck. There are so many good points about this truck. I was kind of starting to brainstorm while I was driving a video on the things that drive me batty about this truck, or things I don't like. And I actually had kind of a hard time thinking of enough to really have a video. Most of the time people on YouTube, a negative video is a very popular video on YouTube. A lot of times people want to see people have a bad time. And that's just not something that I've had with this truck. This truck has been an excellent truck for me. And as you can see, we have a little bit of an uneven freeway. We're bouncing around a little bit. But this is an F350 with 4,381 pounds of payload. It is a hefty, hefty truck. So is it going to ride a little rough over bumps? Yes. My rears right now are way too high. I should have aired them down before I left. I cleaned out my truck because I know it's going to be at the dealer for a while. I don't want to have any reason for someone to feel the need to take something out of my truck. I don't ever want to have that be an opportunity. And I also want to have them detail my truck while it's here, because I don't do a good enough job of doing that on my own. So while it's down here, I'm going to ask them to fully detail my truck super pretty like, even if it costs me $150, I don't even care. My truck deserves, as you can see, it's very dusty. This truck gets used and enjoyed, as there's, a random hitch clip just sitting there. I use my truck all the time, and it is wonderful. So this has been a great truck. At 34,000 miles, I have just so little bad to say about it. This thing works very well, whether it be for family, for road trips, for doing work, for not maybe living out of it isn't the right idea to say, but like when you're working on outdoor projects, the interior becomes the safe haven, whether it's the AC or the heat, whether it's just closing your eyes for a minute because you've worked your butt off, maybe you've hurt yourself, so you just need to chill for a minute. This is a really great place to be. I will say, after my surgery, I had a really hard time getting up in my truck for a while. I didn't drive it for a good while. The height of these trucks is severe. Now, I do have trimmer step bars on my truck, so I don't have as much drop to the step bar as normally people would have on a truck like this. So keep that in mind. If you have any mobility issues or anything like that, first of all, no, even a 2500 or an F250, any of these modern trucks that are a 3/4 ton truck, they're going to be tall. I believe that Chevy is generally the shortest right now. I do see some of these, and GMC obviously kind of saying the same thing, but the AT4s and things like that do sit a little bit higher. The Trail Bosses look like they sit a little bit higher, but there are some trim levels where the Chevys appear to be the lowest one to get into. So if you have a height issue, a knee issue, a hip issue, things like that, maybe your elbows and your shoulders have problems for getting in and out of the truck, you may want to look that way and stay away from Ford, because it is the tallest one of them all. They are big girls, and if you're hurting in any way, I had abdominal hernia surgery, which was a nightmare. Very, very painful recovery, and getting up in this truck sucked. So that is something that half tons just are just great for, is they're basically cars. And in that way, if you're mostly using it for car-like duties, that's why you just see so many Ram 1500s and F-150s and Chevs float just around on the road. I mean, we're going past just dozens right now. They're the most popular vehicles on the road because they're just so utilitarian, and they're very easy to get into, even though I would argue that the advantages that any 2500 or 3500 3/4 ton, 1 ton truck base gets you in towing is worth any downside of these things at all. The one that you can't get around is physical mobility issues, and that's one that it's a reality for these things. They are big. What I was getting at was my rear tires are way overinflated right now. I was just towing very, very heavy trailers. Rears are at 73 right now, front's at 45, which is generally my base pressure for the front. On these tires, these are 3,750 pound rated tires at 80 PSI. I have 45 in them. That's basically exactly what this front axle has on it when you do the math on that, which is actual weight on tire divided by the tire's max weight rating times the maximum pressure. That always spits out. You can do chalk testing, but 100% of the time, that math spits out exactly the PSI that the chalk test works out perfectly on. Always recommend doing a chalk test, but you're going to find that math, as long as you get the math right, whether you're estimating the weight on the tire or actually weighing the truck and that scale is actually correct. The issue that you can run into is everyone talks about, oh, CAT scale's calibrated. Their error is good enough for a semi-truck, like we're seeing at this rest stop here. That's why I pointed over there. The error that they have is an issue for it's statistically significant for a truck like this. So be very careful if you start seeing off numbers on a scale ticket or something. Definitely question that, because yeah, they're calibrated, but their acceptable error is kind of big for what they are, because they're made to weigh 52 to 140,000 pounds or something like that, where a couple thousand pounds off is kind of like whatever. Being 400, 500, 600, 700 pounds off on one corner, or 1,400 pounds off on an axle or something, that's a huge issue for trying to understand what you're doing to your normal size pickup truck. So keep that in mind. Scales are always supposed to be sized for the duty at hand. You wouldn't use a truck scale on a race car, and you wouldn't use race car scales on a pickup truck. So there are different scales with different accuracy, and they're meant to be accurate for the weight that is what they're rated for. So just be careful with that. And the chalk test at the end of the day is basically free way. Come on, everybody's kids have chalk to do this, and you can buy it. If you don't have kids, you go to the dollar store and buy a pack of chalk for like no money. So definitely recommend having that on hand. You can check your trailer tires too. If you look at it quick enough, you can see too if you have a tire scrubbing issue or something like that. Like if you have a bent axle or an out of alignment trailer axle or something, you can see it if you check it right away. You'll see on the chalk a weird scrubbing pattern, and it might help indicate to you that you have a problem. Or if you check it soon enough, you might even be able to see like a bad shock, a tire flopping around. Or if you have a bad spot on the tire, you might be able to see that too. So chalk tests are very, very valuable diagnostic tools. Definitely practice and screw around with it, because there's no downside to doing a chalk test. It causes absolutely no, and that's why I don't like getting into the right lane, is because I get screwed. I have somebody who sits in my hip and doesn't let me back over, and then I get screwed in the right-hand lane. So anyway, so I am giving this truck up for a little while. It will hopefully come back extremely fixed. And I'm looking forward to that, because I do think that I agree with all my viewers. I think it is Ford's job to fix their screw-ups, and also to be another statistic in this M235 axle having most likely knuckle-related manufacturing issues. It has not been the seals or the lockout itself having failures. It has in fact been the knuckle being machined wrong and not allowing the seals to seal properly. That has actually been what is causing issues on my truck, and I'm gonna bet that it's the same issue all over again, and it's both sides now. So that is an issue. What really is the M235? I've heard people call it a Dana 60. I think in a Dana 50. I think in Broncos they loosely throw around Dana 50 as the rear axle, like on the Raptor and stuff. The M235 is a totally different axle than what was called a Dana 50, the Legacy Dana 50. The Legacy Dana 50 is a 229 in or a millimeter ring gear. This is a 235, so it's a bigger ring gear, so that's different too. It has a completely different housing. It is a much lighter duty housing, and the Dana 50 in question is from early Super Duties 99 to 04, depending on different models. The Excursion only got Dana 50s. It is basically Dana 44 inner splines, Dana 60 outers, and a smaller ring gear than a Dana 60. A standard Dana 60 has a 248 millimeter ring gear. This axle is basically based on the Dana Super 60. It is a super heavy duty housing. There's a lot of good about this axle. It's a very, very strong axle. It is high pinion. It does have a slightly smaller ring gear than the normal Super 60 05 Plus is an M256, 256 millimeter, which is obviously bigger than 235, but it's not terribly small. I haven't physically broken the axle. I've definitely used this. I have had to shock load the hell out of this axle, doing some recovery missions to help friends out and whatever, with bungee cord in the truck, a 3-inch strap. I've had some serious load in the back of this truck and jerking it. And I haven't had any issue with this axle. I wouldn't be afraid to put big tires with like big mud tires. I wouldn't be afraid at all to put 40 mud grapplers on this truck. Not worried about it at all. Of course, it wouldn't be what I'm doing, because I like to keep this truck usable for my uses, but I wouldn't worry about the M235 at all. I think it's a perfectly fine axle for what most of you guys are doing. Ford, I think, cheapened what they were doing because it saved them some money. They were putting the strongest front axle on their trucks, and at the end of the day, they didn't need to satisfy the demands of the customer. So they cheapened it up. I think it was a bad idea, because it was one thing that we could always ride on, that our Super Duties had way overbuilt of a front axle. It is what it is right now. I hope that they go back. I think that launching the M256 back would make people extremely happy. But what I was getting at, my tangents aside, is that the excellent fuel economy, we've actually increased by 0.2 since we started talking, even doing between 68 and 72, depending on traffic flow, is probably down to maybe better rolling resistance on the front end, definitely better rolling resistance and gear related losses in the rear axle. That's why the Sterling 11.6 was invented or came out. As we're trying to meet more strict fuel economy and emissions, what they're doing is they're really spending a lot of money and engineering time on the drive lines, because there is a lot of loss in a standard drive line. And what they've done is they've significantly, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, have all improved the rear axles to have the least amount of losses in the ring gear and the pinion interaction and the rotating mass of the axles, while still providing stronger and stronger and stronger axles to have higher and higher and higher GVWRs and GCVWRs, consequently payloads and towing capacities, things like that. So it's amazing that we keep getting better while still getting, or stronger while still getting more efficient. That it says a lot about automotive engineering in general. So I'll kind of leave it at that, but these things are amazing trucks. In terms of 7.3 versus 6.7, I missed owning a 6.7, not because it was necessarily better, I just like it, which is why I bought another 6.7, but it's an older truck, it's 2015. That will be more on the channel, and it's ready to go to kind of take over some duties from this while this thing gets fixed, and I'm hoping to be able to use them side by side together and really do some diesel versus gas, 6.7, 7.3, comparisons. I went with the older one because I wanted the older one. I'm not a terribly big fan of these newer Power Strokes, and it's not that they're bad, as I just get done saying new engineering, blah, 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 blah. 20 Plus has steel pistons, and 20 Plus happens to be where we keep having all these bottom end failures that we never had before in the 6.7. 6.7's never had spun bearings, spun rod bearings, or I should say more specifically spun crank bearings, spun rod bearings, broken rods. Never had this issue until they went to steel pistons in 2020. I am not super big fan of that change. Aluminum is less reciprocating mass. They are plenty strong enough in all racing applications besides crazy sled pulling, where the only pistons that they have access to are the steel ones. That in a lot of higher end sled pulling stuff, they're literally using tractor engines or semi-truck engines, literally the engine that those are, and without a lot of changes with piston of boost shoved in them. So when you're using a tractor engine, you're stuck with whatever pistons it came with. They're not made for high RPMs. Obviously, you've seen a lot of videos of those things exploding. We're not going to get into that because it's not necessarily my area of expertise. All I know is that in motorsports, drag racing environments, no one uses steel pistons in high horsepower, high RPM racing applications ever, period. No one does it. No one takes steel pistons and puts them in Cumminses and sled pulling and things like that, like Cummins, like 5967s. They're always forged aluminum pistons that are used in that application, or the stock aluminum pistons. I'm not a big fan of steel pistons. People can argue with me about that. Tell me down below if you think I'm full of crap. But when I see 2020 and ups are always having these bottom end issues, and I said right away when I saw steel pistons, I was like, oh, I don't really like that. And then time has proven that is a scary thing about them. We're coming into traffic. I'm going to conclude this video with saying, at 34,000 miles, my truck's going in to get the hubs fixed. We'll talk about what happened afterwards. Hopefully it's all under warranty. I have high expectations that it's going to get fixed under warranty and we're going to be good to go. I absolutely love my truck. I absolutely love the 7.3 for what I'm doing, both towing really heavy up to 18,000 pounds and driving empty. I'm insanely pleased with the performance of 373 gears paired with the 7.3 gas. I love my truck, and I think you guys will love these things too. So if you're in the market for one, give it a try. They're really, really good. They're excellent performing engines. They're very, very fun to drive, easy to drive in traffic, lots of power, and even if you have a big old load behind you, you're in pretty good shape because they really do a fabulous job. Take care, everyone, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.